In the royal world where every move is carefully calculated and every word carries immense weight, surprises are a rare commodity. Yet today, a woman who has long remained almost invisible within the royal circle has suddenly become the center of attention. Carole Middleton, mother of Princess Kate. Known for her quiet demeanor and rarely seen in public, Carole has shaken the palace and even moved Queen Camilla to tears. I just want to say that Carole and I are absolutely delighted by today's announcement. A statement that may sound simple at first, but behind it lies a story powerful enough to unsettle the entire British monarchy. What exactly did Carole do? Why did it provoke such a strong emotional reaction from Queen Camilla? And what is truly happening behind the palace walls? Join us as we uncover Carole Middleton's unexpected decision, an action that could reshape how we see power trust and the royal family itself. Don't forget to leave a comment with 1 if you feel moved by this story or 0 if you see it differently. Share your thoughts with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss what happens next as we reveal every hidden detail behind this remarkable story. Before the whole world witnessed the royal wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton on April 29, 2011, everything seemed perfect. Every detail was carefully prepared, from the bright smiles exchanged to the friendly greetings between family members. Photographers captured moments of the royal family and the Middleton family standing side by side, creating a family portrait filled with happiness. Both families, despite their clear differences in background and tradition, now stood together under the spotlight of this national event. In that photo, Carole Middleton, Kate's mother, stood next to Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, smiling gently like everyone else, showing respect and harmony. Although not born into nobility, Carole brought warmth and grace in the way she blended into the atmosphere of the special day. However, behind that smile, there were untold stories, silent relationships that not everyone noticed. This was the first official appearance of Carole, a mother from a working-class background alongside members of the royal family, and although everything seemed perfect on the surface inside her, tensions slowly began to emerge as she sensed the distance between herself and the others in the royal family. However, behind the radiant smiles often seen in public, another story gradually unfolds, a story not openly spoken, but evident through subtle gestures and increasingly noticeable silences. It is a tale of simmering tensions and silent disagreements growing within the family. Though no one speaks out, the silence itself becomes a sign that something is no longer whole. The happy images once admired by the public now face challenges that not everyone immediately perceives. Carole Middleton, mother of the Duchess of Cambridge, came from a humble working-class family and has journeyed far to build a stable life alongside her husband Michael. Together they established and grew Party Pieces, a business specializing in party supplies, and achieved considerable success, bringing stability and pride to their family. Though not born into nobility or royalty, Carole has demonstrated strength and resilience, helping to lay a solid foundation for her children, especially in her important role after her daughter became a member of the British royal family. However, as the relationship between Kate and Prince William grew more serious and approached the doors of royalty, Carole began to notice subtle changes in how people treated her. At first, she tried to believe that everything was fine, that the friendliness of some royal family members was a sign of acceptance. Indeed, a few showed warmth and welcomed her as an extended part of the family. But mixed within that were cold expressions, scrutinizing glances, and unspoken distances. Carole gradually sensed that while her daughter was stepping into a world of prestige, she herself was not being allowed to enter naturally or with the respect she had hoped for. The feeling of being ignored during gatherings, the fleeting looks of aloofness, and especially the clear separations in conversations, made her heart ache. There were times when Carole sat in a room full of people but felt like an outsider, no one truly noticing her presence. The silence was sometimes not because there was nothing to say, but because she was not invited to speak. In that unfamiliar world where unspoken rules and class distinctions quietly persisted, Carole felt like a shadow, invisible and isolated, despite all her efforts to fit in. In contrast to Carole Camilla, the future queen was born into an old aristocratic family where traditional values and royal protocols were paramount. From a young age, Camilla was raised in an environment that valued class and heritage, with a deep understanding of hierarchy and court etiquette. Because of this, she steadfastly upheld what was considered the royal standard, including how events were organized, social conduct, and public image management. When faced with someone like Carole, a middle-class woman from a working-class background, with a simple practical lifestyle, the differences became even more pronounced. Although not openly expressed, the discord between these two women from vastly different worlds gradually revealed itself in the smallest details. As Kate and William's royal wedding approached, Carole, as the bride's mother, wished to contribute some personal touches that would add a familial warmth to her daughter's special day. However, her ideas, born from a desire to make the wedding more intimate, cozy, and connected, were sometimes seen as an intrusion into royal tradition. Some of Carole's proposals were politely declined, while others were outright rejected without concealment. Through these reactions, the message she received was quite clear. Carole was expected to smile, nod in agreement, and step back, leaving the spotlight entirely to others. In a royal event, her role, even as the bride's mother, was confined within the boundaries of silence and compliance. After the wedding, the tensions didn't disappear, but instead simmered down and grew deeper. Carole felt that her time with her daughter Kate was becoming increasingly limited. Although Kate gracefully fulfilled her royal duties, Carole knew the heavy burdens behind the scenes were immense. Family visits became less frequent, and even their private moments were often interrupted. Even Christmas holidays, once a time for family gatherings, had become a major challenge. According to the strict traditions and rules of the British royal family, members, including new additions like Kate, are required to spend Christmas at Sandringham with the Queen and other royals. This is not merely a regular family reunion, but a ritual laden with symbolism and discipline. Every activity, from meals and conversations to dress codes, is arranged according to a fixed schedule and royal protocol. For Carole Middleton and Kate alike, this was a difficult adjustment. While previous Christmases had been filled with laughter, intimate jokes, and the natural warmth of family Christmas at Sandringham brought feelings of distance, formality, and a certain coldness. For Kate, this adjustment was twofold. On one hand, she fully understood her new role within the royal family and the responsibilities that came with it. On the other hand, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness as she had to leave behind what was once familiar and warm. Standing between two worlds, one being the royal family with its unyielding rules, and the other being the Middleton family with its close-knit and simple affection, often made Kate feel like she was living two lives. As for Carole, the mother who had always been by her daughter's side during holidays, she could now only watch from afar, accepting that the change in her daughter's social status also meant she was gradually being pushed outside the intimate boundaries they once shared. The festive seasons, instead of bringing them closer, had become a quiet reminder of the growing distance between these two worlds. In July 2013, when Prince George, the first son of William and Kate, was born, it was not only a monumental event for the royal family, but also a sacred moment for Carole Middleton. As a mother and soon-to-be grandmother, Carole had hoped to be by her daughter's side during those early days of motherhood, supporting Kate through the postpartum period and caring for her first grandchild with the closest and most natural love. For Carole, caring for her grandchild was not just a responsibility, but a happiness, an invaluable opportunity to connect and nurture family bonds, much like many grandmothers do. However, the reality within the palace was far more complicated than expected. From the moment Prince George was born, royal rules and traditions were swiftly and strictly enforced. Professional royal nannies, carefully selected for their background skills and impeccable conduct, were assigned to care for the child. Every step of the care process followed specific protocols and principles, from feeding schedules to arranging sleep times. This meant that Carole, despite her goodwill and experience as a mother, was gradually sidelined. No one directly forbade her involvement, but the unspoken boundaries and carefully arranged limitations prevented her from playing the grandmother role she had envisioned. Some close to the royal family believe that Camilla, whose status and influence within the royal circle were steadily growing, may have played a role in establishing this distance between the Middleton family and the royal world. Although there is no clear evidence or public statement, Camilla's quiet support for traditional rules combined with a cautious attitude toward outsiders becoming too involved in royal affairs has led many to suspect that she was behind the stance to keep the Middleton family's influence to a minimum. This separation seemed not only the result of class differences, but also a deliberate choice to protect the internal power structure of the royal family, within which Camilla was increasingly becoming a key figure. Tensions reached their peak in July 2015, when Princess Charlotte William and Kate's second daughter was baptized at St. Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham. This was a formal event, but also held deep personal significance for the Middleton family. Carole, as the grandmother, carefully planned a private, gentle, and intimate gathering after the main ceremony, a moment for the family to be close and share joy away from the spotlight. However, at the last minute, that plan was rejected by Camilla's office. Although the official reason may have been administrative or organizational, the manner and timing of the refusal left Carole feeling deeply disappointed and hurt. Her efforts to create a meaningful moment for her daughter and grandchildren were suddenly dismissed further, highlighting the simmering tension between two worlds: one, a humble family; the other, a royal institution bound by strict rules and control. What could have been a warm family moment instead became a reminder of how carefully Carole's role within the royal context was being managed. Behind the palace walls and the perfect smiles shown to the public, a quiet rivalry gradually took shape, not through loud scandals or dramatic confrontations, but through years of silent refusals, subtle dismissals, and a continuous struggle for a place in Kate's royal life. Carole Middleton, once the warm center of Kate's life and a steadfast support during the years before entering the royal family, was gradually pushed to the sidelines. Not through cruel or openly hostile actions, but by a series of subtle, cold, and symbolic gestures. Polite nods replaced genuine sharing. Conversations were limited by protocol, and her presence at family events was increasingly restricted, all silently sending a message she was not truly welcome within the inner circle of the royal family. Carole, who only wished to be close to her daughter and grandchildren, now faced a harsh reality that her love alone was not enough to break through the invisible barriers erected by status and tradition. So what caused the relationship between Carole and Camilla two women with deep influence over Kate's life to become so cold? Was it simply a difference in class and lifestyle, or something deeper? Some sources suggest that the underlying tension between them escalated significantly after Princess Charlotte's baptism in 2015. When Carole's carefully planned private family gathering after the baptism was canceled at the last minute by Camilla's office, many within the royal circle believed this was more than just an organizational decision. It was a power move. It may have been the moment when the silent struggle between two worlds, one of ordinary maternal love, the other of ancient royal tradition, truly erupted quietly but decisively. Everything seemed peaceful on the surface, but then a subtle shift began in Carole Middleton's approach to royal life. What had once been gentle efforts to blend between the Middleton family and the royal family gradually transformed into something more deliberate and assertive. For years, Carole tried to fit in, smiling, politely stepping back when asked, and accepting being sidelined. But over time, she felt increasingly isolated, not just as a mother, but also as a grandmother to her beloved grandchildren. Eventually, she made a quiet but firm decision to stop trying to fit into a world that never truly welcomed her. Though she never spoke out publicly, Carole's absence began to be noticed at royal events. Where she once stood proudly beside Kate, she no longer appeared. Her absence was not loud or dramatic, it was measured, careful, and graceful. She did not rebel. She simply chose to protect her dignity and reclaim her place in her own way. The path to this decision was far from easy. Since Kate married Prince William in 2011, Carole had struggled to find her footing in the royal world, a world not only unfamiliar, but often rejecting of her presence. The royal rules and Carole's modern values did not always align. Carole Middleton never sought the spotlight or craved public attention. She did not need titles or recognition from the aristocracy to affirm her self-worth. With strength, independence, and a progressive spirit, she built her own success from an ordinary middle-class woman to the founder of a respected business. It was precisely this resilience that made her stand out and sometimes caused discomfort in an environment where status and tradition were considered inviolable. By existing and succeeding without relying on lineage or influence, Carole challenged long-standing class prejudices, something some within the royal family might have viewed as a subtle threat, even though she never intended to confront anyone. When Prince George was born in 2013, a momentous event, not only for the royal family, but also for the Middleton family, Carole hoped to play the role of a devoted grandmother, always by her daughter's and grandson's side during this important early stage of life. However, the reality at the palace was far from easy. The strict royal protocols and tightly managed schedules quickly shaped every activity around the child. Carole's sincere offers to help even with small things like caring for the baby or supporting Kate's postpartum recovery were often gently but firmly declined. Instead, she had to accept a difficult reality to see her grandchildren and be part of their lives. She had to negotiate every moment and every meeting. Carole Middleton's situation was not simply a story of class differences, it was also a matter of power and control within the royal household. Though coming from a middle-class background and with no ambition to intrude into the royal power structure, Carole was placed under supervision and kept at a distance. Every step she took, every appearance she made, was carefully considered by influential figures within the palace. Her presence, even when gentle and sincere, seemed always to require vetting to avoid crossing the invisible boundaries between the royal family and the outside world. And while Carole was limited in accessing her grandchildren or participating in important family events, another woman was increasingly asserting her status and comfort within the private walls of the royal residence. Camilla, once regarded as an outsider and faced with considerable skepticism, has now been fully accepted by the royal family and has even become one of the strongest voices in maintaining traditional order. In her role as queen consort, Camilla clearly upholds the principles of propriety and ceremony, and she does not hesitate to propose boundaries whenever she senses foreign elements, such as the influence of the Middleton family, that could potentially disrupt the royal image. Camilla's firmness and recognition, especially when contrasted with Carole's increasingly diminished position, paint a strikingly clear picture. One woman once doubted has risen to become a symbol of tradition, while the other, with all her simple, genuine love, has quietly been pushed to the margins of a world she never sought to deeply enter. According to many astute observers within the royal circle, Camilla may have seen in Carole Middleton not just Kate's mother, but a factor capable of unsettling the delicate balance of power within the royal family. While Carole never showed any ambition to interfere with royal decisions or internal structures, her persistent presence and natural closeness to Kate and her children, especially Prince George and Princess Charlotte, brought about a subtle yet unmistakable influence. For Camilla, this may have been perceived as a threat not in a political sense, but on a personal and symbolic level. Two women, both mothers, both protecting their families, yet coming from two completely opposite worlds and carrying very different values. The tension became particularly evident during an occasion meant to symbolize unity, the 70th birthday celebration of Prince Charles held in November 2018 at Buckingham Palace. This was a major event bringing together all the key members of the royal family, along with a select few carefully chosen special guests. Carole and Michael Middleton were also present, but according to insider sources, the atmosphere between Carole and Camilla during this event was one of the most notably frozen moments. While Camilla appeared confident and at ease playing a central role beside her husband Carole, though treated politely, clearly felt the invisible boundary separating her from the rest of the room. The Middleton family maintained their usual respectful demeanor, but behind the elegant setting, the event had a profound impact on Carole. While mingling with aristocratic friends, Camilla reportedly commented on the importance of family heritage, saying old money is more important than new success. Though no names were mentioned, those familiar with the family dynamics clearly understood the implication. For Carole, it was the final insult, a reminder that no matter how hard she worked or how lovingly she raised her daughter, she would never truly belong in this world. The tense moment at Prince Louis's concert was not merely a routine social event, but marked a significant turning point in Carole Middleton's life. Rather than reacting publicly or complaining about the growing coldness and distance between herself and Queen Camilla, Carole chose silence and patiently began to withdraw from the complex whirlpool of royal traditions. She no longer tried to fit in or cling to difficult relationships, nor did she hope to be invited to grand occasions as before. This retreat was not an act of surrender, but a wise decision to preserve her dignity and inner peace. Instead, Carole focused on her private life, further developing the business she had long built and becoming more deeply involved in community activities to which she had always devoted her passion and energy. Although no longer playing a central role in royal events, she quietly kept track of and cared about the developments behind the scenes, the stories, relationships, and ever-changing dynamics within the palace that only insiders could truly understand. Carole knew that even standing outside the spotlight, she remained an important part of the family and would always watch over the steps of her daughter and grandchildren with enduring and steadfast love. According to those close to her, Carole began documenting every instance of being sidelined, each canceled visit with her grandchildren, every event she was excluded from. She was not petty, but she protected her story through a network of business and social connections she had built over years of work. She started hearing snippets of information revealing how power operated behind palace doors, the extravagant expenditures, strange changes in charitable funds, and overlaps between personal lives and official duties. Although she had come to somewhat understand the bigger picture of her complicated relationship with Queen Camilla, Carole Middleton still chose to remain silent and adopt a more discreet attitude than ever before. She did not want to cause a fuss or stir up more turmoil in the already chaotic and harsh royal world. Instead, Carole chose to move slowly and patiently, waiting for the natural unfolding of time and events. However, by early 2024, the tension between these two powerful women could no longer be kept under wraps and gradually became visible to the public, drawing the attention and speculation of those interested in the royal family. Small signs of evasive gestures and growing distance in their interactions began to be scrutinized closely by the media and public alike. One of the most memorable moments occurred at Prince Louis's school concert in March 2024. Previously, Carole and Camilla would often stand near each other at family events. Although not very close, they at least maintained basic politeness and social gestures. But this time, they stood at opposite ends of the room, a distance not only physical but also emotional and attitudinal. There were no smiles, no greetings, not even a glance exchanged between them, something that surprised and shocked many. Prince William, known as the Peacemaker, was the only bridge trying to ease the atmosphere by moving between them, talking and keeping everyone calm. However, the coldness and invisible barrier between Carole and Camilla remained clear, highlighting an undeniable reality: the relationship between these two women had deeply fractured and was unlikely to be mended at that time. This was not just about that event. It was the result of years of silent struggles, quiet disdain, and unspoken rivalry. Yet throughout all this, Carole never broke her silence. She never shared her story with the press. She taught her children to respect grace and reverence. But the emotional wounds remained deep. Seeing other royals like Camilla warmly welcomed while she struggled just to spend simple time with her grandchildren was truly painful. Kate has continuously strived to maintain the bond between the royal family and the Middleton family, wishing to preserve the close connection and affection they once shared. However, with the increasingly heavy and complex duties of being a royal family member, balancing these two worlds has become more and more difficult. Formal requirements, strict rules, and a packed schedule demand much of Kate's time and energy for her responsibilities, causing the distance between her and her original family to gradually widen. The familiar world that Carole and her daughters once lived in and shared suddenly felt distant, as if stretched by invisible gaps created by the royal position. If you can feel the inner struggle Kate faces between her royal duties and family bonds, give this video a like to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join us for more emotional and meaningful stories about the royal family. Since becoming part of the royal family in 2011, Kate has taken on countless public roles and responsibilities, from charitable activities and official events to diplomatic and media duties. Yet behind that glamour, Carole has always been a steadfast support, quietly backing her daughter with love and patience. She is not only a devoted mother, but also an emotional pillar helping Kate stay grounded in a world full of pressures and challenges. However, this support has increasingly taken place in silence, as Carole too must adapt to the reality that their relationship is no longer as easy as before, and that each of them is walking their own separate path within the same family. However, Carole's gradual and discreet withdrawal from royal life is not simply a disappearance or a surrender. On the contrary, it is a silent protest, a subtle and meaningful way to express her stance. By slowly stepping back, she aims to send a clear message. Although she may not stand at the center of power or attention, she still deserves to be acknowledged and treated as a respectful and dignified outsider. Her absence is not a sign of weakness, but a strong assertion that she refuses to be belittled or passively pushed to the sidelines. Carole does not demand titles or power, nor does she seek flamboyant recognition from the royal family or the public. What she truly fights for is something much deeper: respect, not only for herself, but also for the love, effort, and role she plays in the lives of her daughter and grandchildren. She wants to be recognized as a valued member, someone close, and cherished, not just a faded figure pushed out of the larger story of the royal family. And this is the heart of the silent battle. Carole is enduring a battle without gunfire, but heavy with significance in the discreet world of royalty and tradition. As 2024 progressed, those within the palace began to notice a marked change in Queen Camilla's attitude toward Carole Middleton. Previously, their interactions maintained a level of politeness and respect, albeit with underlying tension, but now the coldness and growing distance between them became increasingly apparent. Staff who had once been enthusiastic and dedicated in coordinating events involving the Middleton family started to become more cautious and limited in their interactions. Invitations to royal events for Carole and her family gradually became sparse, noticeably shrinking their presence. Conversations took on a formal, chilly tone, losing the warmth and openness they once had. Even Kate, seen as the bridge between the two worlds, the royal family and the Middletons, began to show signs of emotional strain. Balancing the demanding duties of royalty with maintaining strong ties to her family placed her in an extremely difficult position. The internal struggle became increasingly visible as Kate felt caught between two worlds marked by significant differences and conflicts. Her love for her family and her responsibility to her royal role forced her to continuously find balance, even sacrificing some of the most precious aspects of her private life. This created a silent but heavy pressure in the life of the princess. But behind the scenes, Carole continued to do what she had always done: stay attentive, remain calm, and document the quiet ways in which the palace maintained its control. For her, it was no longer just a personal hurt. It was about legacy. She did not want her family's story to be told only by those within the palace walls. Carole raised her daughter to be strong, compassionate, and intelligent. And now, as Kate stood at the center of a changing monarchy, Carole was determined to protect the values she had passed down, ensuring they would not be lost amid royal traditions. At the heart of all this stood one woman, Carole Middleton. For more than a decade, she had played her role perfectly. She was a caring mother-in-law, always stylish, always respectful, renowned for hosting flawless gatherings and keeping her opinions to herself. She was the epitome of the quiet middle class. But everything changed on the morning of February 6, 2025. On that cold day, Carole Middleton appeared simple and discreet, without any accompanying reporters or assistants. There were no flashing cameras, no public statements or explanations made. She carried only a plain leather briefcase as if preparing for an important meeting that required no public or media attention. Her modest presence created a heavy atmosphere among those present, starkly different from the usual warm family gatherings. Insiders close to the palace revealed that the meeting that followed was not the warm, harmonious family conversation everyone had expected. Instead, it was a far more serious event with carefully calculated intentions and purposes. It was not merely an exchange or resolution of personal conflicts. The event seemed to embody a strategic move away for the parties involved to assert their views and reinforce their positions within the complex and harsh world of royalty. Every word and gesture was meticulously considered like a tense chess game between those holding deep power and influence. Carole's visit was not merely an emotional one. It was carefully planned. The briefcase she carried was not for show. Inside were practical documents, bank records, names, dates, transactions. While the palace said nothing publicly, rumors about this meeting began to spread. Secret meetings in Switzerland, money transfers through anonymous companies, and perhaps most seriously a covert campaign to gradually push the Middleton family further away from the royal circle. But Carole did not bring only financial matters. What she carried seemed deeply personal. It was a powerful reminder that the woman many had overlooked for years was still quietly watching and remembering everything. Just hours after Carole's unexpected visit, a strange change began at Buckingham Palace. Meetings were abruptly canceled or relocated. Senior aides, some long retired, were called back. Royal events were postponed without official explanations. The palace's silence only fueled more curiosity. Immediately after the tense meeting with Carole, Queen Camilla suddenly disappeared from the public eye for a full 10 days, sparking curiosity and numerous speculations among the media and fans about the reasons behind this unusual absence. When Camilla returned for the major event of Commonwealth Day, the change in her demeanor was clear and undeniable. The confidence that had always been her hallmark during public appearances seemed to give way to a more closed-off and distant state. Body language experts quickly noticed unusual signs, restrained gestures, cautious glances, and an unusually silent attitude compared to her usual self. Instead of being surrounded by a large team of staff and assistants as before, Camilla appeared with fewer aides, creating the impression that she was trying to maintain distance and avoid excessive attention. It seemed that something had deeply shaken her, leaving a distinct mark on how she presented herself in public. For many witnesses, this was the first time they saw a different Camilla, not radiant and resolute as before, but rather a woman showing signs of anxiety, fatigue, and inner vulnerability. Inside the palace, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense and stifling, as if the ancient walls silently witnessed a high-pressure underground struggle. The staff and members of the palace began to split into two distinct camps, reflecting a deep division of opinions and emotions. Those close to Catherine, the Princess of Wales, often expressed sympathy and understanding towards Carole Middleton, seeing her not only as a devoted mother, but also as someone who had tirelessly fought for her family and daughter. They believed that what Carole had done, though not always easy, was an inevitable part of the challenging life of entering the royal world. On the other hand, another faction within the palace, especially those staunch supporters of Queen Camilla, viewed Carole's actions from a completely different perspective. To them, Carole's reactions and behavior were seen as unfortunate, even dangerous, to the harmony and stability of the royal family. They believed that her quiet withdrawal and silent resistance could create unnecessary conflicts, damaging the image and traditions that have been cherished for generations. This division not only sparked many covert debates, but also made the atmosphere within the palace more complex and unpredictable, as each side firmly held on to their positions and viewpoints. Clearly, something had profoundly changed within the palace walls. The atmosphere, once formal but warm, had become more cautious and guarded than ever before. People no longer chatted comfortably and naturally as they used to. Instead, cheerful conversations gradually gave way to hushed whispers, as if trying to hide or avoid being overheard. Intimacy and openness were slowly replaced by hesitation and vigilance, turning what was once a lively space into one that felt tense and suffocating. Even friendly gestures such as warm handshakes and genuine smiles became rare, replaced instead by wary and scrutinizing looks. People seemed to keep their distance, not only physically, but also emotionally and in terms of trust. Prince William, who has long been known for his calmness and ability to mediate conflicts under great pressure, could not escape the feeling of being caught between opposing thoughts and emotions. His eyes revealed deep concern as he struggled to balance royal duties with his love for family in a context where harmony seemed increasingly difficult to maintain. According to insiders within the palace, Prince William began seeking advice and support from former aides of his mother, Princess Diana, who herself endured significant challenges behind the closed doors of the royal palace. These aides not only deeply understood the immense pressure Diana faced, but also had experience guiding William through the complex conflicts within both the family and the monarchy. William's decision to turn to them was no secret, and this choice was quickly noted as a sign that he was trying to learn from the past in order to navigate present difficulties with greater wisdom and grace. Meanwhile, Carole Middleton maintained complete silence before the public and the media. She did not participate in any interviews, did not speak out on any social media platforms, nor did she make any statements to explain or refute. This quiet withdrawal only fueled further curiosity and interest from the press, but Carole was resolute in preserving her privacy. She chose to return quietly to her familiar home, seeking solace in her values and personal peace, far from the noise and turmoil of the royal world she had once tried to integrate into. It was this silence that spoke volumes about her determination and dignity amidst the intense pressure. However, Carole's silence carried a unique strength, needing no loud words or attention-grabbing actions to express her stance. By consciously remaining silent and withdrawing, she sent a clear and profound message, stronger than any spoken word. It was a steadfast silence, unyielding yet unobtrusive, that made those within the palace unable to overlook or dismiss her. This was a powerful silent form of protest that avoided direct confrontation while ensuring her position and voice remained undeniable. For the first time in a long while, Buckingham Palace no longer felt completely in control as it once did. It was not a sudden collapse, but something in the atmosphere had shifted, creating a subtle yet persistent unease that spread through the corridors and rooms of the palace. The rules and order that once seemed immutable began to gently waver, challenging the long-standing stability. This feeling was hard to define or see with the naked eye, yet it was enough for those involved to sense a profound difference, signaling potential changes looming in the near future. In a royal family built and maintained on meticulous planning and tight control of every detail, any uncertainty or change could become a lurking threat. Carole Middleton's quiet yet meaningful withdrawal was not merely an absence. It marked a turning point, a void not easily filled. This retreat shook the delicate structure of the palace, raising questions about the future of relationships and the established stability within the monarchy. Crucially, when a figure like Carole steps away, the spaces of power and influence begin to shift in unpredictable ways. It was against this backdrop that Kate Middleton's rise became clearer than ever. When Carole unexpectedly visited Buckingham Palace, what seemed like a small act quietly sent shockwaves through the royal circles, like a gentle ripple that was strong enough to disturb the calm surface. Her presence not only caught the attention of those inside the palace, but also sparked speculation and concern about factions and power plays behind the scenes. This was not merely a simple meeting, but a sign that significant changes were underway, with Kate increasingly asserting her position and influence within the complex royal system. At first, it all began with subtle whispers, soft rumors of tension and unrest behind the palace curtains. Many dismissed these as mere gossip, baseless chatter among the upper class and media. However, as weeks passed, the truth gradually unfolded and became clearer than ever these were no longer harmless stories. Something deeper and more important was happening, a major shift in the power structure that few could afford to ignore. This transformation revolves around a central figure, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who has been steadily asserting her irreplaceable position both in the hearts of the public and within the royal family. Kate, with her grace, determination, and strength, is not only a symbol of elegance and tradition, but also an emblem of the shifting power gradually tipping in her favor. In the broader royal landscape, Kate is no longer just a backstage figure. She is becoming one of the key players orchestrating the forces and influences that are changing day by day. If Carole Middleton's unexpected visit is seen as the initial sign of a pivotal turning point within the palace, then Kate is the steady and decisive hand shaping the events that follow. Though she is neither ostentatious nor loud, Kate demonstrates her leadership through calmness, patience, and wise strategy. She doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room, yet her influence spreads deeply and enduringly, permeating every corner of the royal power structure. Kate's emergence is like a fresh breeze, subtle yet powerful, helping to balance internal tensions and steer the future of the monarchy. She is not merely a member of the royal family, but a symbol of transformation, a leading force behind quiet yet irreversible changes. In this position, Kate has proven that true strength does not lie in noise or showmanship, but in steadfastness, meticulous preparation, and the ability to maintain influence persistently and profoundly. Going back to 2011, when Kate officially married Prince William, no one, neither the public nor members of the royal family, truly expected her transition into royal life to be smooth or easy. In front of the media cameras and amidst the joy of millions worldwide, Kate was welcomed as a symbol of hope and renewal. But behind that glittering facade, not everyone was supportive. Some members of the old aristocracy, deeply attached to the strict traditions and rules of the monarchy, could not hide their skepticism and harsh judgment when faced with a young bride who was not born into nobility. Kate's family, with her parents Carole and Michael Middleton, built their life and career through hard work and entrepreneurial spirit. They run a successful business called Party Pieces, specializing in party supplies. However, to the upper class and conservative members of the palace, this was neither a source of pride nor impressive. On the contrary, it was an undeniable reminder that Kate was a commoner, an outsider entirely separate from the noble bloodlines. and this fact created invisible yet challenging barriers in her journey to integrate into the strict world of royalty. Behind the closed doors of the palace, the picture was not just polite smiles and friendly handshakes. There also existed whispered judgments, scrutinizing glances, and subtle suspicions from some long-established aristocratic members. Many times, Kate faced feelings of alienation and silent disdain that she could not easily confront. However, she never openly resisted or responded directly. She understood that in an environment demanding patience and tact, silence and observation were her strongest weapons. Instead of trying to force her way in by drawing attention, Kate chose to quietly learn and integrate at the rhythm of royal life. She was like a diligent student who had spent many years studying history at the University of St. Andrews, and was now continuing to study another field, the rules, traditions, silences, and unspoken conventions within the palace. Over time, she gradually understood and adjusted herself not only to survive, but to thrive firmly in a world filled with strict protocols and invisible pressures. While still fulfilling her most important role as a devoted mother, Kate raised the three young princes, George, Charlotte, and Louis, with all her love and meticulous care. Alongside this, she continually learned and improved herself in carrying out royal duties that required subtlety, precision, and perseverance. Balancing family responsibilities with her public role was no easy task, but Kate steadily demonstrated maturity and strength every time she appeared in public. Over time, Kate became an outstanding protege of the Queen, a royal-style icon, known for grace, composure, and power without the need for many words. She gradually learned to command the royal stage through her gaze gestures and natural demeanor, creating an image that was both gentle and resilient. Thanks to this blend of simplicity and authority, Kate not only won the affection of the public, but also gradually earned the trust and respect of those who once doubted her when she first entered the royal world. By March 2025, everything began to shift once again in the royal power landscape. Queen Camilla, following the incidents related to Carole Middleton's visit, gradually withdrew from the spotlight and public activities. Her absence created a challenging gap, but instead of sparking dramatic waves or power struggles, Kate chose a very different approach. She did not rush to attract attention with bold statements or shocking actions. Instead, she stepped into the realm of power gently and naturally, as if she had belonged there all along. Kate's increasingly frequent and subtle public appearances soon followed. More than that, her voice began to be heard with greater weight in important meetings and internal planning sessions. Kate was no longer just a participant. She became a key figure making decisions and setting strategic directions for the future of the monarchy. Her calmness and sharpness in conduct made everyone realize that a new era was beginning, and Kate stood at the very center of this change. In a meaningful backstage move within the palace, Kate's office was relocated from a hidden, less-noticed corner of the palace to a suite of luxurious rooms just a few steps away from King Charles's private chambers. In the royal world, where everything is arranged with meticulous care and consideration, this was not merely a change in workspace or decor. It was a clear sign of power and influence gradually shifting. The proximity of one's seat to the throne is not just a physical position, but a symbol of influence and trust within the royal circle. Not only did palace officials take notice of this shift, but even members of the royal family began to sense the changing dynamics of power and interaction. Prince William, long seen as the firm heir to the throne, increasingly leaned on Kate for decision-making and handling royal matters. Their relationship grew more balanced and intimate, not just as a private couple, but as a powerful team jointly steering the future of the monarchy. This evolution signaled a new era in which Kate was no longer just a duchess, but a key figure shaping the royal family's future. The public appearances of this royal couple became more fluid and clearly purposeful. They were no longer simply a prince and a princess, but a strong, well-coordinated unit. William frequently sought Kate's input and counsel, and she consistently responded with thoughtful, nuanced ideas that harmonized long-standing royal traditions with modern values and the everyday concerns of ordinary citizens. Their collaboration was evident not just in words, but in the way they stood side by side and supported each other at every important event. Even in her fashion choices, Kate conveyed a deeper message. She began re-wearing previously worn outfits, artfully blending pieces from renowned designers with accessible high-street brands. This was not merely about fashion, it was a symbol of humility and empathy. At a time when many families across the UK were struggling with rising living costs, Kate sought to emphasize that she did not stand on some distant pedestal, but instead understood and shared the challenges people were facing. This approach allowed her to build an image that was both relatable and inspirational, further strengthening her standing with the public. Kate's influence extended far beyond high-level meetings and formal events. It began to permeate social media in a meaningful way. Previously, the royal family's official accounts often featured content that was formal, rigid, and somewhat distant. However, since Kate assumed a more prominent role within the monarchy, the tone and style of royal communications have undergone a noticeable shift. Posts now carry a more personal and authentic touch, allowing the public to feel a sense of closeness and friendliness with the royal family. Everyday candid moments, the joyful laughter of the young prince's playful family time, or glimpses into life behind the palace's usually solemn walls, have become more commonly shared. The royal image is no longer bound solely by formality and distance. Instead, it's being reshaped through warmth, empathy, and relatability. This shift isn't a rebellion against tradition, but rather a subtle evolution, a fresh approach that brings new life to a once stiff royal image in the digital age. These days, no one questions whether the Middleton family truly belongs in the royal world anymore. Old doubts and class-based prejudices have gradually given way to recognition and respect. Their influence no longer rests solely on reputation or personal ties. It has become an integral part of the monarchy's very fabric. People now find themselves wondering just how far the Middleton family's influence might extend, and how they will continue to contribute to the transformation and modernization of such an age-old institution. In the palace, a world defined by order, tradition, and meticulous control power never disappears abruptly. Instead, it shifts, adapts, and recalibrates according to new realities. At present, that shift is clearly leaning toward the Middleton family, seen through Kate's growing prominence and the quiet, unwavering support of her mother, Carole Middleton. This isn't just a transition. It's a symbol of profound internal change within the royal household, signaling the dawn of a new era, one full of promise but not without its challenges. So what do you think about Carole Middleton's unexpected move that brought Queen Camilla to tears? Don't forget to leave a comment with 1 if you sympathize with Queen Camilla or 0 if you have a different opinion. Share your thoughts with us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video showing on your screen for more great content. See you again in the next videos.